What's up, G Fusion fans? This is Philip, and welcome back to another video. So, with the upcoming debut of Kamen Rider Saber's primitive dragon form, everybody's talking about Kamen Rider Berserker forms. So, that's what's going to be our topic for today's video. Now, before we begin, I would like to remind everyone that these videos are not intended for viewers under 13, so please be advised. Now, speaking of Berserk forms in Kamen Rider, now I would like to make one thing importantly clear. So, in order to, in order for a form to be considered a Berserk form, so basically the user has to lose distinction between allies and enemies. Now, there are some cases that the rider is in partial control, but I would talk about forms that have actually lost it at some point. So this is not gonna be a very exhaustive list of riders because some look kind of berserk-ish, but you know, I would really like to point out that again, at some point, the rider has to have also attacked his allies or probably some innocent people as well. So that's what I'm going to clarify here. All right, so let's start. Now, the first Kamen Rider to have an actual Berserk form in the series would actually be Kamen Rider Kuga. Now, the difference is it never technically appeared in the show. Now, which form is it? It's the ultimate Kuga. Now, however, this is what happened. Before Yusuke Godai transformed into Ultimate Kuga, he was already warned about the potential dangers it could bring. But he still chose to fight and transform into Ultimate Kuga with the power of love, which is really, really cheesy to be completely honest. However, Kuga Ultimate Form is distinct because you can actually see the difference between the normal acting Kuga and the Berserk acting Kuga. So uh, the form or the ultimate form that was said as a warning had black eyes, signifying that his eyes have gone completely dark from all hatred. But when Yusuke Godai transformed into his ultimate Kuga form, it retained the red eyes that were associated with the mighty forms, signifying that he has remained in control of himself. Again, with the power of love. So, while it did not appear in the original Kamen Rider Kuga, it did appear in Kamen Rider Decade with Yusuke Onodera. More specifically, in the movie. So, in Kamen Rider Decade, the movie, this is where we see the black eyed Ultimate Kuga in action. Now, this, of course, came about because Yusuke Onodera had seen Tsukasa go completely evil. You wanted him to stop, basically. Yusuke wanted him to stop, but, he wouldn't listen. Tsukasa had turned evil, and in his rage, this brought about Ultimate Kuga with the black eyes. So, again, it was already shown to us in the first episode when Natsumi saw Ultimate Kuga in her dream fighting Kamen Rider Decade. Now, since that I've mentioned Kamen Rider Decade already, he also kind of has a Berserk form, which is the violent emotion. So, with the violent emotion, Tsukasa does attack each and every rider around him. Again, this prompts Onodera to go angry and unleash his black-eyed ultimate Kuga. So Berserk form begets another Berserk form, I guess. But what's interesting about the violent emotions is that, while basically Tsukasa is evil at that point, like he still fights normally. Like he doesn't go rage mode and act like a beast. So yeah, but still having attacked each and every rider around him, yeah, that's definitely a berserk form. So the next Kamen Rider that we're going to talk about is Agito Burning Form. So Kamen Rider Agito Burning Form came about, well, because, well, Shoichi also got angry, but uh he doesn't seem to attack his allies, but nonetheless, he starts showing no mercy to his enemies. So what is what I find quite cheesy about Kamen Rider Agito's Burning Farm is that about 2 3 episodes later after its debut, so just by being exposed to sunlight, the burning form breaks off, revealing shining Agito. Again, you just light, and final form, the most powerful Agito with the power of light. I mean, seriously, that is just lazy writing to me. Sorry, I didn't like that. So next up, so the next Kamen Rider that I'm going to mention here is interesting because this isn't really a berserk form, but transforming into the Kamen Rider itself causes the character to go berserk. And this is Kamen Rider Liangle from Kamen Rider Blade. Now, in the early appearances of Kamen Rider Liangle, so we see Mutsuki often transforming into Liangle, although there have been other people as well, but it's definitely Mutsuki who's become the boy or the person associated with Liangle for the most part. Now, what is interesting about Kamen Rider Liangle is that, again, it's not a form. He doesn't have any other forms that he uses in the show, but because the spider undead apparently wasn't sealed properly, so it still retains its sentience and can influence a person, especially one with a weak will. However, uh, there has been, I forgot his name, but he was able to control the spider undead, but nonetheless, he used Liangle to do, or at least, what he think is good. But yeah, the spider undead actually likes people with weak wills that he can control. And Mutsuki having a trauma because of being kidnapped at a very young age, so that trauma kind of weakens him and it attracts the attention of the spider undead. So when he transforms, he goes berserk, but not really on his own. So it's more like the spider undead possessing him. So again, this makes Liangle an interesting case because there is a different entity that's trying to take over, and this isn't really the first time with that. So, anyways, moving on. Now, Kamen Rider Hibiki actually has an interesting aspect here. So, uh, so you can see Kamen Riders in Kamen Rider Hibiki with an Oni mark on their head. Basically, there's a small Oni face, and one example of a Kamen Rider in Kamen Rider Hibiki that has basically gone berserk is Kamen Rider Shuki, the show's only female Kamen Rider. And you can see that when she transforms, the Oni phase covers her whole face instead of just being on the forehead, which signifies that the Oni in question has succumbed to anger and, you know, no longer, uh, well, I really wouldn't call that berserk because Shuki really didn't attack, you know, people who were or innocent or uh, other riders and other onis, but she again, just like Burning Agito, she shows no mercy, definitely, but not much of a berserk form. However, we will go back to Kamen Rider Decade and we see Kamen Rider Gyuki. So Kamen Rider Gyuki is a bison-looking oni, which is actually just a corrupted Hibiki. So yeah, he goes berserk and turns into a bison. So this is Kamen Rider Gyuki. Now the difference is, so in the original Hibiki show, so like I mentioned earlier, the only face on the forehead grows and covers the whole face. However, Kamen Rider Gyuki still retains basically the Hibiki face, and the Oni face on his forehead doesn't grow. Again, he just looks more like a bison. So yeah, but guess that still counts. Now, the next Kamen Rider to go berserk would come quite later, and I would say Kamen Rider O's. So Kamen Rider O's and his Puto Tira form. So, well, obviously, it goes berserk. It attacked everyone, and AG almost attacked Hina, but she was able to stop him. So, yeah, that is definitely a berserk form when you blindly attack your friends, and actually, like, he goes straight for her, but she was able to control AG. I guess her super strength helps, but nonetheless. Now, the next Kamen Rider that goes berserk, I actually would say it's Kamen Rider Drive. Now, Kamen Rider Drive, and probably by extension, uh, Kamen Rider Mach. So they actually shared uh, the Mach. You know, they have this mixed form, the Dead Heat form. So in Dead Heat form, again, it's a shared form. So they both have access to it. So uh, Shinosuke and Go kind of go berserk when they use this. So they start, and they almost start attacking allies, definitely. And speaking of berserk, actually in the movie, in Surprise Future, Kamen Rider Drive actually goes berserk, particularly with the use of Tridron, I think, or type formula. But nonetheless, Krimstein Belt begins to show signs of corruption. So yeah, that definitely did not go as well as they would expect. That really went down. So yeah, and anytime that they use that heat, definitely they go berserk. But they actually learn to control it later on. So I guess, and most of the berserk forms uh, can be controlled later on with prolonged use. Having your body getting used to it. So I guess that works, but nonetheless. So the next one is Kamen Rider Exade with the Dragon Knight Hunter. Now, in its initial appearance, it did go berserk. However, in order for the riders to take control of it, so strangely, it has to be split up. So Kamen Rider Exade's Dragon Knight Hunter actually has different parts, right? So the Dragon Knight Hunter has, the head and torso basically together. The right arm, left leg, and left leg. parts basically. So what is interesting is that the stats also change. Now, of course, one rider can equip all parts, but by splitting the parts into, let's say, four riders, right? So Emu retains the head and torso, Hiro gains the right side, basically the arm and leg parts for the right side. Taiga gains the left arm and left leg parts, and the Kiria gains both arms and legs. So, interestingly enough, or strangely enough, depending on how you look at it, the stats actually increase when you split the parts among the riders rather than just having one rider equip all the parts, which is strange. But again, it also helps to control the power since you don't carry it all yourself, presumably. So again, splitting the parts amongst the riders actually helps avoid the berserk. So okay then. Now, the next one. Now, this is definitely the definition of berserk. Kamen Rider builds hazard forms. Now, Sento is basically a peaceful person fighting for love and peace. However, when he started using the hazard form, he ended up killing somebody. Now, we do have to understand that in the events of Kamen Rider build, they were caught in a war. And at that time, Toto was fighting Hokuto. So basically, build versus um, Greece at that point. And Kamen Rider Greece had his three friends. So the hard smash guys. So during the debut of Kamen Rider Build's Hazard form, the Rabbit Tank Hazard form, he ended up killing the Kuwagata Hard Smash. Yeah. Now, this actually left Sento in shambles because he really didn't want to kill anyone, but his new form caused him to lose control of himself, and he actually even attacked Misora at one point, but this actually prompted to Misora awakening a new power thanks to Vernage, and we would eventually get the rabbit tank forms. So I guess because of that, so the furu bottle, the shaky bottles that the rabbit tank again. So it led to a power that Santa can actually control. But later on, so we see that when the common riders in build increase their hazard levels, which is basically their tolerance to the nebula gas. So, yeah, by raising your hazard levels, you are actually able to control the hazard form and, not go berserk. And you can fight for longer using that. And Evolto actually comments on that, especially during his later fight with the build. I actually think it's in the last two episodes. So when Santo goes all out, uses all his forms. So when he uses dragon, the key dragon hazard form. So Evolto commented on how Santo was actually not, or uh, Sento not going berserk. He is in control already. So again, by uh, acclimating your body to that form, by raising your hazard level, basically by becoming stronger, you are able to control the hazard form as well. But again, that to me is the perfect definition of a berserk form. Yeah. Now, the next one is Kamen Rider uh, 01. I don't know why I just paused there, but anyway, Kamen Rider 01 with his Metal Cluster Hopper. Now, this one I would say is very similar to Kamen Rider Liango in the sense that, well, when actually Aruto was forcibly made to use Kamen Rider, or he was forcibly made to use the Metal Cluster Hopper. The Metal Cluster Hopper Prog Rise Key was actually created by Guy Amatsu, Mr. Senpar Sento, Kamen Rider, um, Kamen Rider Thouser. So he actually created this particular progress key for uh, Aruto, but he had the intention of Aruto being controlled by Arc. So while fighting in the metal cluster hopper form, Aruto suddenly is possessed by Arc. So this is where he meets Arc for the first time, or whatever embodiment Arc had, before he actually came out as Kamen Rider Arc. But anyways, so uh, Aruto, despite knowing the risks, actually uses the metal cluster hopper progress key in order to fight Thouser because, well, it is a powerful form that can go up against quite a powerful rider at that time. So, but thanks to Izu and the invention of the uh, progress blade, so thanks to that, Aruto can now uh, control the metal cluster hopper, and with the added bonus of, you know, saving any Humagears that have gone berserk, or you know uh, that have been controlled by Arc. So thanks to the Progress Hopper Blade, now I remember its name. So he can actually save Humagears from being controlled without destroying them. Nice. So yeah, that is a good Berserk form. And now moving on to Kamen Rider Saber's Primitive Dragon. So at this point, it hasn't made its debut yet. I understand, but let's look at it. So uh, Toma does well when Toma transforms. It seems that of course he uh, you know gets angry, but you know, we don't know how he would obtain it yet. So we're going to have to find out. But nonetheless, again, he actually goes berserk apparently. And what is interesting about the primitive dragon is that it can use abilities of other ride books, although it doesn't really change form. Let's say, for example, you place the Brave Dragon Ride Wonder Ride book, so uh, Toma would be able to gain access to the powers of whatever Wonder Ride book is in there. Whatever you basically, it's two ride books together. So the primitive dragon plus whatever ordinary ride book you can put in there. And I've seen Lion Senki being put in there as well, so you can basically channel other techniques. But again, this doesn't really change the form, just primitive dragon form. So yeah, that's a form that I'm actually looking forward to see. But eventually, Toma will be able to gain control of it. I just know it's going to happen. So anyways, that would be all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. So as always, thank you so much for watching. Please do leave a like, comment, subscribe, turn turn on the notification bell, share this video, whatever. Yeah, things that I say all the time, but I get confused. But you know what? Tell me in the comments. So which Berserk Kamen Rider is your favorite? So far, I would say my favorite would be personally, I would go for Metal Cluster Hopper. That just looks awesome to me. But uh, again, uh, to me, like the definition of Berserk was Kamen Rider builds hazard form. Man, that was a classic scene. So, anyways, again, as always, uh, like, comment, share this video, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you get the latest from JE Fusion. So, this has been Philip, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.